If you have a Cradlepoint router, now is the time to update your firmware, because by the end of this month, it might not be possible anymore without a support contract. Hi, I'm Chris from the Mobile Internet Resource Center, here to share some news from Cradlepoint, the maker of high-end cellular embedded routers like this IBR 900 here. Cradlepoint is known for making really great hardware, and they've got quite a reputation for that. But, well, Cradlepoint wants to get out of the hardware business, and they are, quote, evolving their company to offering products as a service. What does that mean? Well, it means instead of selling you hardware, they want to sell you the hardware and sell you a service contract. And that service contract will now, going forward, be required even for basic software updates, security updates, anything firmware, any new firmware fixes that come out beginning in June, at the end of June. They will now require that you have an active service contract to do any sort of updates. So, a little bit more context on this. Cradlepoint for a long time has offered their NetCloud suite of services that are primarily intended for enterprise administrators who are managing a fleet of police vehicles, ambulances, trains, trucks driving across the country. That is their normal target market for selling these sort of devices out into fleets, and selling their target customer is an IT manager that is potentially managing hundreds of these. So if you've got hundreds of these routers out in the field to manage, having to do each one of them individually is a headache. So having a centralized cloud service that you can manage the device, you could track them on maps, you can actually get alarms if they go outside of their designated service area, all these things is really great. But if you're an individual RVer or cruiser who is using this as the heart of your onboard network, none of those features really matter. You're managing things directly, and NetCloud has really never mattered for this type of individual market. So most of us have ignored it. But now, going forward, Cradlepoint is requiring NetCloud to do any sort of management of this device remotely, including firmware updates, and they will be getting rid of the ability to do firmware updates directly. This means that security fixes and patches and everything like that are going away unless you do an upgrade before the end of this month, and then you'll be locked into wherever your final firmware is. Cradlepoint has actually done this once in the past. Back in 2014, they instituted a similar policy, and there was enough customer backlash that they backed away from it, and in 2015 made firmware available again. But now they are focusing even more on the higher end of the enterprise market, and it is, well, hopefully they will change their mind on this, but I'm not counting on it. So keep that in mind. If you are a Cradlepoint customer or a potential Cradlepoint customer, now you should really consider subscribing to the NetCloud service as mandatory, just so that you can keep up with the security updates. Now, how much is the NetCloud service to sign up? $180 a year for most of the more mainstream Cradlepoint devices, though it varies based on the product line. But for the Core series and the AER series, which are the ones most individuals might use, $180 a year. So that's a pretty pricey fee for primarily, well, you might use it for GPS tracking, use it like a LoJack, and using it to do your firmware updates. So that is kind of the update from Cradlepoint. One note is Cradlepoint's main competitor in that kind of enterprise, higher-end cellular embedded router market is Peplink, and Peplink has let us know that they have no plans to do any sort of similar software service contract required model for any of their routers. So that will become an increasingly important differentiator between the PepWave product line and the Cradlepoint product line. So keep that in mind. So if you actually need to get an upgrade on your Cradlepoint router, it might not be the most obvious thing to do. Sometimes you'll get a prompt on the main home screen of the dashboard saying a firmware update is available. This will probably be going away come the end of this month, when updates only available via the NetCloud. But if you're not getting this prompt and you want to check, you go down to System Controls, NetCloud OS, and then there'll be a button here that will say check for update if you haven't already checked, and then it will tell you there's a new button, and you can then do an automatic update there to download it. Now, it is also very important down here to look for modem firmware updates, because the modem has a separate firmware, and to check all of these for each of the carriers. And you see here we've got an AT&T firmware update waiting for us. These again will no longer be available unless you have a NetCloud subscription starting in the beginning of July. So get these updates now while you have the chance.
These videos are brought to you by our premium members, our mobile internet aficionados. They make it possible for us to track this news and create these videos. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe to our channel, or better yet, consider becoming a member yourself.